Hey, what is up, Warriors, and welcome back. We're talking about Andrew Jackson again, but this time we're talking about the Indian Removal Act, and we're really getting into what is considered to be the most controversial part of Andrew Jackson's presidency, something that he was beloved for during his time, but now later in life we look back on and say, is this really somebody that we want to have on money, that we want to celebrate as one of our best presidents? So let's jump right into it. Let's talk about Jackson's history with Native Americans. Well, you should know this, that there were new territorial acquisitions that were bought and traded from European countries, and this expanded America to over double its size. This would be the Louisiana Territory. We acquired Florida. There were new areas that were just growing the amount of land that the United States owned. And through these lands that were bought and paid for, they were not empty. So dozens of Native American tribes were actually roaming these areas for centuries prior to any European country that owning these lands. You know, Native Americans have been there for hundreds, if not thousands of years. By 1832, Andrew Jackson felt that it was time to take these lands for Americans that were moving westwards. But Native Americans would not give up their lands that easily. Some would fight, some would try legal means, some would try to make peace, but either way, Native Americans were not just going to step aside and allow America to have their lands. Andrew Jackson, you should know, has a long history with Native Americans, and much of that history is negative. He defeated many, many tribes, like the Creek, and took their land and made it accessible for American citizens. And we talked about this. This is really what gave him his first ever fame. It was being this kind of war hero who went out and battled Native Americans and came back rewarding America with the lands that he had taken from the conquered people. Slowly but surely, Jackson defeated all of the tribes in the area that you're going to see on this map right here, that we would call kind of the like the Louisiana Territory, kind of the middle part of North America. And at the end of this, the land that he had taken was offered back to American settlers. Now, this makes him, like I said, very, very famous, but it also is very controversial because, of course, when we look back at this, it's not something we want to celebrate. It's something that's very dark, very negative. It's kind of the destruction of the culture and way of life of Native Americans. Now, generally, when Andrew Jackson would conquer, or America in general, any of our armies would conquer a tribe, they would give them two choices. Native Americans were basically offered the first choice called assimilation. Assimilation is a big word that means to adopt European culture and submit to U.S. law. So Native Americans would have to change the way that they dress, change the way that they speak, change the way that they live to literally try to mirror and mimic American culture, Western culture. Or the other choice was just move west of the Mississippi River. Go far away from where U.S. settlers are kind of moving towards the border and just disappear out of our way, and then we won't have a problem. The problem is, especially with that second choice, it's temporary because America's never had enough. They're going to keep moving west and expanding as America gets bigger and bigger. So no matter how far Native Americans go west, eventually they're going to bump into the United States again, and the whole problem repeats itself. Now we're going to focus heavily on one tribe in particular that really they move mountains figuratively to try and stay on their homeland, and that would be the Cherokee. The Cherokee are an example of a tribe who tried to assimilate. They did everything that they could to follow what the United States wanted to try and stay on their homes. They adopt Western culture. They dress in Western clothing. They even build Western-style farms and begin farming in the same way that you would have seen Southern plantation owners farming. But we're going to find out that none of that is enough to save their ability to stay on their homeland. So, here's our first question for the day. I want you to imagine that you were part of a small tribe of Native Americans that was approached by United States soldiers, and you were given this very choice, assimilate or move. What would you do? Leave your home, assimilate, or, the third option, fight? Let us know what you think.